The Guardians have had good luck in the injury department in 2026, but one area of need that was a problem before is now a critical need for them.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Last week, we talked about the need for the Guardians to trade for a left-handed reliever. On Memorial Day, that need just became even more critical with Erik Sabrowski going on the injured list. We'll talk about that today on Locked On Guardians, your only daily Cleveland Guardians podcast that covers your team every day, from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. We'll tackle most of that on today's show. Later in the show, we'll get into Game 2 for Guardians and Nationals. We'll talk about an upcoming move for the Guardians before that game on Tuesday. We'll talk about flushing this ugly Memorial Day loss for the Guardians. But we're starting out today's show. Jeff, that left-handed relief pitching becomes a much bigger need for this Guardians team. And, of course, that is Jeff Ellis, host of Locked On Guardians for the last 8 years. I'm Justin Lada, host of the show with Jeff for the last 4 years. And we've both been covering the Guardians minor league system, the draft, and whatnot for the last 19 years each. Jeff, real quickly, too, I wanted to shout out a couple people that I ran into at the Guards game on Monday night. Really cool to talk to Matt and Michael. Appreciate you guys coming up and saying that you listen every day. And I know Matt said he started listening in 2022. So do appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun time since 2022. You know, a lot of playoff appearances. Unfortunately, Jeff, none of those teams featured Andrew Miller, and this one's not going to feature Andrew Miller either, but they're going to need to find somebody pretty good. So Erik Sabrowski is going on the 15-day, or already is on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation. It's important to point out, too, that he's had 2 Tommy John surgeries already. Last year, he missed a lot of time with a forearm injury, which, you know, is a little bit of a precursor or in the family of the elbow issue when it comes to that ligament. So am I wrong in saying this, Jeff, that this is a big concern for Sabrowski, that this could be unfortunately a very major injury for him? I know it's only inflammation right now, but it's hard not hard to have a little bit of a red flag here considering his health history.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair, right? Like, I mean, I'm still taking flack for being concerned about José Ramírez's health history, right? But he's now played more games, I think, this year than he has any season so far. But I think the issue here is like that Sabrowski has never had a clean sheet season. He has always missed time with injury. Hopefully this is just a case of that. This is going to be the month or so he misses every year. Like the arm, has some issues. I mean, that's why Cleveland was able to get him in the minor league part of the Rule 5 draft. Not even the Rule 5 draft, but the minor league section, because he just had multiple injuries when he was with the Padres, I want to say. The bigger problem for me is plain and simply he is irreplaceable. Knowing this team, knowing what they might go for, knowing what's available out there, there is nothing like him. And I know someone will be like, Chapman with Boston. This team isn't going to go for a guy with character red flag issues. They have done their darndest. They're specifically not going to go for a guy who's had some issues with firearms with their own past history. And that's not, an attack on anyone who does like firearms. I'm just saying that people who use it irresponsibly are the issue. But there's no way to replace what you have. There's no way to fill him in. I am concerned with his past history. It's hard not to be, and it's really hard not to, because essentially Cade has turned back into Cade. So he's the second most important member of this bullpen, left-hander or not, but especially as a lefty.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to replace him on this team because of the way he misses bats. And I guess this injury may or may not give us some insight into control issues this year. He had control issues a year ago. It was only 12 innings in 2024, and they obviously trusted him a lot in the playoffs in 2024 based on a small sample in the majors. And he had better control there. But last year he had control issues, came back late in the year. I was willing to excuse those because he missed a lot of time, but that was also due to the forearm issue, right? And then this year he's had control issues, and it really became a big issue. His last time out against the Tigers, which we haven't seen him since. And then now we figure out, like, okay, he didn't pitch against Philadelphia. And my theory was Friday was okay, they went on Friday. They went from Gavin right to Cade Smith, so you didn't need Erik Sabrowski. That was good. Then Saturday you were losing, so you weren't going to bring in Sabrowski in a losing game, right? And then Sunday, that was kind of the red flag, right? You went to Tim Herrin instead, and that also now explains why Logan Allen was called up on Sunday as well. I wonder if Sabrowski's injury. I talked yesterday on the solo show, Jeff, about why Paulette was let go, and a lot of it, I know he had said like it was just extended control issues and where the Guardians were as a contender with this bullpen, that they just couldn't afford to have a guy that they can only use in blowouts and guy who had control issues continually. They could no longer afford to carry him. I wonder if Sabrowski's injury kind of forced their hand with Paulette, because there was nobody else they could really send down at this point without, great concern. So I wonder if that was part of the factor there, that maybe they would have kept.
I think
Paulette
you're right.
a little bit. Yeah, they might have been out willing to work through Paulette's stuff if their hand wasn't forced, and it just is what it is. So I do have a high level of concern about where Sabrowski is. It's going to be very hard to replace him for sure. I mean, there is no Andrew Miller. Like last week, we were talking about Josh Hader, and this is why it's a concern, because we don't know all the details, obviously, about Sabrowski's elbow will happen. Maybe Jeff's right. Maybe you're right, and it'll be a month and he'll come back, or 2 months and he'll come back in July or August and be just fine, and that would be great. But Tim Herrin has already been concerning as it is, so that's why we were saying last week about trading for a lefty, because that was going to be a big need for this bullpen. Now, if Sabrowski is going to miss any time, and if this is a more concerning elbow issue, like it's even more imperative this team finds a reliever. Like, go through the data out there. It's not pretty as far as who's available. Like, unfortunately, the best guy available, and I don't know what the Mets have done lately as far as.
Didn't they just get swept by somebody again, and then they beat? I mean, they've been so up and down.
I mean, they're still in last place. They're 10 games below. They're 14 games behind the Braves. They would have to pull off a 2025 Guardians miracle to come back in the division. But I suppose the wild card could still be in play, and they're still a team that.
Yeah, they just got swept by the Miami Marlins, one of the worst teams in baseball, and then lost to the Reds today. They split a 4-game series with the Nationals. So in their last 8 games, they're 2-6.
So 38-year-old Brooks Raley is like a really good option. He's been
agreed.
He's got the second lowest ERA of left-handed relievers since 2023, spanning 107 innings. So like he's a good option. We talked about Hader. Man, outside of that, like the Cardinals are doing fine now. Like JoJo Romero is the guy we talked about this offseason. He's only got the rest of this year under control. I would think the Cardinals would try to get something for him, but it's also going to depend on where they are. Like right now, they're 6 games above 500. They're 2.5 back in the division. I don't.
They're in the wild card.
Yeah, I don't know if they're taking this season seriously. It's very hard to say, but like those are the only guys I can look at right now. Like it's Raley, Romero, and I know we talked about Josh Hader, but I also have like the money's an issue there, and he also has his own character concerns from the past too. Some I know they're just tweets, but like they're very poorly worded tweets that were dealt with a couple of years back.
I just think that 19 million is too much. Like
I agree.
It's like the other guys like I just bring up in terms of how they played is Brendan Bernardino he's 34. He's with Colorado. He's been effective over the last few years. That makes him kind of interesting. After that, it's a lot of guys. I mean, if you look at just FIP this year, Jose Suarez is on his 3rd team. He's the 31st best left-handed reliever by FIP. There's just not a lot of great candidates out there. I'm trying to remember who else I was looking at and texting you with, but it's just you're looking at a very limited amount of players. The other thing, like I wonder if he gets healthy, if the Brewers would consider Jared Koenig, who's been an absolute workhorse for them the past few years. And the reason I wonder if, even though he's been a workhorse for the Brewers, if they'd consider him, is because one of the best left-hand pitchers in baseball is Aaron Ashby, who I believe they locked up years ago. I think he's got a contract with them. DL Hall has pitched great for them out of the pen. They had Shane Dronan from Boston, who's been one of the best left-handed. They have 3 fantastic left-handed relievers. So Koenig is currently out with a sprained elbow, which it's a sprained elbow that doesn't have me quite as concerned as other injuries. But it's like when he comes back, do they really want to carry 4 lefties? And when you look at like the Brewers' needs, unfortunately, their biggest need is third base, where David Hamilton's starting. Cleveland can't really help him out there so much. it's like maybe they flip Ortiz to third base and call up Jet Williams themselves. So it's like where you could help them would maybe is the other problem is starting pitching depth, which Cleveland doesn't have. They just took their sixth starter and made him a reliever because of this issue. So, maybe, it's the Brewers. They're always open for some lotto tickets or some players who could advance in an interesting way. This is the team that turned Jake Bauers into a potential all-star this year. So maybe you should be afraid to trade with them, but Jared Koenig is multiple years of control and could be
David
interesting
Fry,
from that perspective.
I would say David. I know David Fry is not what he was in 2024, but I would say David Fry for Giancarlo Mejia worked out fine for them.
Yeah. He's been solid this year. For all my concerns, like I have no issues with Fry. Koenig was worth 1 win in 24, 1 win in 25, and then he only threw 2 innings this year because of the elbow. So if he comes back, you're getting like 3.5 years of control. So yeah, I would love to see, and another guy drafted by the White Sox who went to Milwaukee and they fixed. Like that's what happens. But yeah, Koenig would be a guy I would kind of like to see, and he's an offensive lineman playing pitcher, so that's always fun to add to this bullpen.
Yeah, historically has been a big bullpen. All right, we'll continue to keep our eye and talk about left-handed relief pitching for the Guardians as the season goes on. We're going to quickly address this ugly Memorial Day loss and move on because that's exactly what the Guardians need to do.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. Like the left-hand spot in Cleveland's bullpen, when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time finding and actually interviewing candidates who check your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of the show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get the premium status their job deserves. Indeed.com/podcast. Just head to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Appreciate everybody making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is that you get podcasts. Right now, you should really take a look at the Everydayer Club. Right now, we're giving away 7-day free trial, no commitment on anything. So all you got to do is tap the link in the show notes or go to LockedOnGuardians@supercast.com, and that gets you ad-free episodes of all the Locked On Guardians episodes, completely free in the audio version. You get access to our private Discord. You can chat with Jeff and I, other listeners of the show, Guardians fans, and you can also hop on the Discord in other places too. For Locked On Cavs, if you want to vent, you can go over to Locked On Tigers, see how ugly things are over there, and you can hop around for all your favorite shows. So again, check the link in the show notes. Go to LockedOnGuardians@supercast.com to get your ad-free your 7-day free trial right now. All right, Jeff. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I know I don't think a lot of people want to hear about it. I was at the game on Monday, and it was ugly from the first pitch. I shouldn't say the first pitch, the first batter. Tanner hung a curveball to James Wood, and James Wood did what James Wood does with most pitches, but let alone a hanging curveball, went out of the park. I was joking around with a friend, and we were talking, and he was asking me for what bet should I place on the Guards tonight? And I said, well, I bet on James Wood hitting a home run just because Tanner has, given up some home runs this year, and James Wood is James Wood. So, and what did he do? He hit a home run. I didn't foresee 2 Curtis Mead homers. I didn't foresee a Luis Garcia homer. Let's see who else homered for them on this night. There was a lot of guys. I think Abrams hit one.
Garcia, Abrams, 2 by Mead, 1 by Wood. So
there were 6 total. I think there was 6 total. One was
2 Mead, 1 Wood, 1 Garcia, 1.
One
Jared Young.
5,
Jared Young.
Yeah, 5 were Tanner and 1 was Matt.
Yeah, if you go look at James Wood's Savant page, he is the classic Savant profile. This is a Savant profile Cleveland's kind of started to chase a little bit more, which is, and he has the hardest hard hit. He has the highest barrel percentage. He has the highest average exit velocity, all that good stuff. Then he doesn't chase and he walks. Like, he can whiff and he can K, but as long as you're not chasing and you walk, this profile works, and that's why James Wood.
And you hit the snot out of the baseball.
Yeah, and he hit the snot out of the ball.
Yeah.
That's the trick. Have the bat speed, hit the ball hard. You can strike out. You can have, a high K rate. His is 29.5. That's fine. But as long as you walk and you don't chase, you'll be fine. And he has been more than fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2 things about Tanner's performance. And Stephen Vogt said after the game that he doesn't think Tanner was tipping his pitches. Now, again, be careful about what they say, because he may or may not have been tipping pitches, but if he was, Stephen Vogt's certainly not going to go out on the limb and say, yeah, he was definitely tipping his pitches. They might, especially not right after the game, they might investigate more to see. You're not going to go out there and be like, oh, yeah, he's tipping his pitches, and then have other teams look at the video and say, oh, here's the sign. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. And, if you go back, if you look at where the home runs were placed, the curveball to Wood was basically middle. The cutter to Jacob Young was middle. The changeup to Luis Garcia was middle. The only 2 balls that were really questionable was the cutter to CJ Abrams that was inside.
And the first Mead home run.
Well, he only gave up the 1 Mead home run. That was Festa. But that one was a ball, wasn't even the zone. So I could understand that one, just tipping your cap. And then Luis Garcia's changeup, the double he hit in the first inning also was middle as well. So he left some balls in the middle of the plate. It is what it is. I'm really not going to go into a whole lot of the back and forth argument, people complaining about Tanner, because look, Tanner threw 8 shutout innings his last start. He had an ERA of 3.2 in the month of May before this start. Now it's ballooned. Yeah, he had a bad start. It happens. Has he been great this year at times? No, but again, he also has the worst run support. That doesn't make a difference tonight because he threw balls down the middle that he couldn't, explain away. These things happen. It's one start. He had to start like that against the Braves. Outside of that, it's been okay. And do you expect more from him? Sure. Yes, absolutely. I think he expects more from himself. So do the Guardians. It's just one of those starts, and it was an ugly game all around for everybody. The Guardians didn't hit in a game where they should have hit. They didn't hit PJ Poulin, the opener, who's not good. They didn't hit Zach Littell, who's having an awful season. So the offense didn't show up. The base running was bad again by Brian Rocchio. And then Tanner just threw a couple meatballs and the game.
More than a couple. It was a lot. I think the biggest knock on Tanner is I don't think his command is as strong as we thought it was when he came up. And I still think he's a part of this rotation. I think he is fine. I think he is good, a solid pitcher. But he just has these moments, even going back to the postseason and that Giancarlo Stanton at bat, where it's like sometimes his command isn't there. Sometimes the pitches drift on him. Sometimes he just seems to miss his spots more than other pitchers on this team. And unfortunately, today was a day where he missed his spots. But I think, again, and there's a psychology of it, right? Just the way he got battered early meant before, even though Zach Littell has been arguably the worst pitcher in baseball, they were down so much that sometimes that breaks the team before, you really get a chance to open up on a guy. So I'm not gonna sit here and bury Tanner, but I think he would even say it was a crap outing. He had a crap outing, and you go back and you move on. And most of his outings this year have been solid.
Yeah, exactly. Stephen Vogt said after the game, this is a game you just flush and move on. You go and you check the video and you make sure that there is no pitch tipping, and if there is, you address it. You look at anything that might have been a concern. Obviously got to play better, but the offense has been kind of in, I don't want to say, I guess kind of a rut. They haven't been great. They crushed Framber Valdez last week. And then after that, they had to scrape and claw to sweep the Tigers. And that's fine because the pitching was great. And they did just enough offensively. Same with Philadelphia this weekend. Both teams scored 4 runs this weekend in Philadelphia. It wasn't a lot of offense. The Guardians pitched very well, so they came out ahead. So the offense has been kind of, struggling along the last week or so.
Part of that was because Vogt went with his heart, not his head. He decided, hey, it's a homecoming for Hoskins. Let's let him play every single game, even though Manzardo has been their best hitter in May. And again, he didn't have huge moments, but he had 2 more walks today. He continued to be effective. Manzardo has to be in there more. Chase is the league is adjusting, so he's got to adjust back. And Jose, we're still we were really this time a week ago, we were like, oh, he's back, and now it's like, oh, maybe we're too soon. So the offense has to do more.
The Tiger series,
it's we need José to not be a shadow of José. Like that's more like Quan has started to pick up a little bit. He's still, Quan is officially now a shadow of himself instead of being one of the worst hitters of baseball. But we need José to be José, and he just has not this year. Like that to me, more than anything else, is the thing holding them back. We're now almost at the end of May, and we're still talking about José being, above average. But this team being as good as they've been with José just being solid is kind of a miracle. And it's not all smoke and mirrors. Like there's been enough young players stepping up that they can do that.
Yeah, and eventually José is going to get back to being José, even if it's not like MVP José levels or whatever you want to say it is. He's still going to find a way to be José Ramírez, and he's still dangerous. Also, the base running needs to be cleaned up. Like Sunday's base running was a poor clinic. Rocchio tried to stretch a single into a double, and he got thrown out, predictably so. He's had a lot of those in the past, and he's really cleaned those things up this year. But that was, and honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter. It could have early because they could have gotten an extra run. They were only down.
Yeah, it should have been 10-3 game in the end.
Yeah, it should have been 10-3. At that point, they were down 6-1. So did it really matter at that point? Probably not. But at least you would have been 6-2, and maybe that changes things. Maybe it really does. I mean, Festa was fine. He gave the home run to Curtis Mead, who is having a great year. Like he's finally turned into a really good player after all these years. And I'm saying all these years, the guy hasn't been around that long. He's 20. What is he? 25. It just feels like he's 25. It feels like he's been around a long time. Also a fellow Aussie, so I'm sure it was fun for him to play with Travis Bassano.
Development isn't linear. We say it all the time, and Curtis Mead looks like one of the big breakouts of this year. For anyone who's like, oh, he's a bum, it's like, I don't know. You go and you dig in there. This is the guy that the Rays gave up Christopher Sanchez for. Like this is the guy, and like he's top prospect, and it looks like the Nationals found someone. Makes me wish Cleveland could have found him.
Yeah, I will say if you look deeper in the savant, there are pitches that he really struggles with. So I wonder if teams will give him less fastballs, and that'll kick him back down a notch. But overall, the data looks pretty good. I mean, for the most part. So. All right, the Guardians are making a move on Tuesday. So Logan Allen, thanks for your service. You gave the Guardians 4 innings of 2 unearned runs. He had 7 strikeouts. Yeah, he was more than effective. But unfortunately, he is going back to AAA, and we'll discuss why and what's next. Well, the Guardians are going to need some energy if they want to recover from that beatdown. They got to come out with much more energy on Tuesday. And I've got a sweet tooth. Maybe the Guardians do too. And they don't, obviously, as an athlete, like me is just one thing. But as an athlete, you do want the perfect treat if you have a sweet tooth. And you don't want the sugar. You don't want the crash. That is why the Cotton Candy 5-hour energy shot that brings the nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way is perfect, because it is the cotton candy taste that we all love. Remember, part of summer. Well, the tasty caffeine boost, 0 sugar, quick and easy way to satisfy that sweet tooth craving without all the sugar and keep things simple and on the go, guilt-free. I need lots of energy during the week. And again, I know the Cavs are done, so they don't have as much energy to expend watching Cavs and Guards ball. But the Guardians definitely need some energy if they're going to recover on Tuesday. So bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5-hour energy shots. Available now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. All right, make sure you're doing all the good things for the show. If you're listening to the show every day, or if you're a fan, or if you just want to make sure that if you don't miss a show, maybe you're busy. Life can be busy sometimes, obviously, for all of us. So if you hit the bell on YouTube, you get notified of when episodes go live, when videos drop. I did a video about the Erik Sabrowski injury this morning, and then I got the news, and then also, did a post-game video as well. After the game, we do that every day. So get those videos sent right to your phone. And if you auto download on all your favorite audio platforms, you keep the show with you wherever you go, so you can listen in the car, on the plane, walking your dog, at the gym, whatever. And I will say, like, just a little behind the scenes here, Jeff and I chose to focus on the Erik Sabrowski news to start off today's show because it felt relevant because we'd already kind of zoned in on the fact that we think left-handed reliever is a big need for this team, and it was before the Sabrowski injury, and it is now. But, we also try to make sure you're listening to a show that makes you think and covers the important things and is going to keep you entertained. And we both didn't think that covering this game in the normal way we did for a podcast was relevant because the team stunk. Tanner wasn't good, and the offense didn't show up against two pitchers they should have hit. And that's, again, it's a game you want to flush. I don't think it would have been a lot of fun to talk about. It wasn't a fun game to watch. You try to move on. So we're trying to focus on other things too. And we're always trying to find those ways to make the show more interesting for you, for us to talk about, and for you to listen to and enjoy. So hopefully you are. So Logan Allen's going to head back to AAA. You definitely feel for him because he didn't start the year with the team because Parker Messick was the superior pitcher, and he showed why. He hasn't exactly pitched great in AAA. I don't really know. It's hard because, like, there are things you can sit there and say, okay, Logan Allen needs to work on A, B, and C, whatever it is.
It's also not a conducive park for anyone.
It's not a conducive environment because whatever changes you're working on are independent because, like, AAA lineups aren't great. And it's just, it's just not an environment where you're going to see, okay, I see this working because I can get this hitter out. Like, you need to see it at the major league level at a lot of points, especially for a guy who's had the experience he has had. So it's hard to hear him. It's hard for him to go back to AAA to do that, especially after he had a really game-saving performance.
But they need him as that sixth starter, because we know, like, it's been great that they've been healthy, but they're gonna need him at some point as a starter.
He's
as much as they need a lefty, they have to have him stretched out. They just have to.
They have to have him, because right now you only have Peterson in AAA as a starting option for you. So Franco Aleman can't be the guy that comes back on Tuesday. I don't have the corresponding move right now. But it can't be him because he can't come back, I believe, until the 29th because he was optioned on. He has to be
28th, I think. 28th.
28th, yeah. It has to be 15 days.
That'll be the 15th day, unless or 29th would be the day after the 15th day, depending on exactly how that
28th, yeah. He can come back in case there's an injury, but in this case, they're optioning Logan Allen, which isn't an injury. So my guess is it's Andrew Walters because he's the only other guy in the 40 that's available to come up. The only other logical move here, Jeff, actually, they can get there because of the Paulette DFA. They're at 39. So they actually could re-add Kolby Allard to the 40 and call him back up. So now I forgot that Paulette opened his spot in 40. So
is he count? I mean, he may not actually, he may not be all the way DFA'd, right? Like, because they have to.
Yes, he's DFA'd. They DFA'd him.
Is he? Because, like, if he passes through waivers and no one claims him, then he comes back to Cleveland. But doesn't he have to stay on their 40 man?
He goes back to the White Sox.
He goes back to the White Sox. But the White Sox could decline him as well, and then Cleveland will get to keep him.
Correct. But right now he's not on. Right now he doesn't count against the 40. He's not on anybody's roster right now.
So he does clear up. Yeah, this could be Kolby Allard, who we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but like Kolby Allard. We'd have to mention if it is him, like if it is that additional lefty, he asked for his release to see if he could find a job anywhere, and the whole league told him no when he came back. So
he had like a lot of guys this time of year. They have what's called escalator. I forget some kind of clause where it's you move up.
An escape clause, basically.
Something, yeah. So you can opt out if you feel like there's a room for you somewhere else in the major league level, so you're not stuck in the minors. So he requested his, he activated or exercised his opt-out date. And then, he went around the league to see if anybody was going to give him a major league deal. He didn't. And just like the offseason when he said, the only team I'll take a minor league deal from is Cleveland. Anybody else would have to be a major league deal. So, and he's back with Cleveland. So he's been a starter in the minors for them. I believe he was scheduled to start this week in AAA, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check while we're riffing. Actually, he was going to start Wednesday for the Clippers, and I believe are they in St. Paul this week?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I bet.
No, they're in Toledo, so they're not far down the road. So they're in Toledo. So it's probably Kolby Allard, if we're being honest, because they have an open 40-man spot. It's just the second lefty and a guy who can give them some length, and that is what it is. So it's really Allen goes back down because they need him as a starter, like you said, and he's not really a relief type anyway. Like, he's not a guy you call up to be a left on left reliever. Yeah. So
I just had to laugh because he looked so good today, but he was essentially a starter today. He was, he was basically a starter for them.
And he pitched well. He pitched very well today. I mean, there's no getting around.
Yeah, without Jose's error, he gets through it with 7 strikeouts is a lot for him, and
sure is. He had 6 whiffs, which is not big, but it's good for him.
It's good for him. It's and again, they just need that depth. Sure. So it makes sense to send him down. When it's, people are probably being like, well, they called back with Sabrowski. They didn't bring up Alaman because it's the same story with Cody
Oh,
Herrin. They
yeah.
couldn't call him up, so they could only call up one guy when the
they
injury happened.
They could have brought back Alaman for
But
Sabrowski.
Yes, but they went with fewer.
Yeah,
because he also gives you more. He can go longer in a game. He can give you multi innings.
So Hoyer and Allen could give you depth. Plus, they did want that second lefty, and this is why we've been saying for a week now that clearly a second lefty is a big area of need for Cleveland. And it was before the Sabrowski injury, and now it's multiplied depending on what happens. That's why we started.
And I'll throw one more lefty out there just to hopefully take advantage of the algorithm. Steven Okert is part of Houston's combined no-hitter today. And he passed through a lot of teams on waivers, but when I looked at like who's been one of the top left-handed pitchers over like the last since 2023, Steven Okert was in the top 15. So hey, we'll try to take advantage of the algorithm. Mention a combined no-hitter in the show on the day of combined no-hitter, but he might be if you're just trying to find ways to patch it together. I know a lot of people view Allard in kind of a folk hero way. I am not as sold on him. I really do think long-term they need to figure something out. I just wish there were better options. We'll continue to mix and dig and try to figure out what those are, because no one else is going to go as deep as this podcast on something like the minutia of a second left-handed pitcher. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, or first, if Sabrowski's out, he's really going to be the main lefty, because right now Tim Herrin's still untrustworthy, I would say. As much as we do like Tim, and he's a friend of the show.
Friend of the show
before. Yeah. Hey, Taylor Rogers. The Twins aren't very good. Ironically, the Twins right now are the third wild card team in the AL. But they're going to sell. Taylor Rogers at the end of his career, he's got a 262 FIP. I wouldn't hate it. It's not against it. So we'll throw ideas out. If you guys want to throw ideas at us, we'll talk about them throughout the next couple of months as we get there, because I do think this is going to be an area Cleveland tries to address. Okay, so hopefully Game 2 against the Nationals is better. That like Jeff said, this is a better team they get credit for.
Yes,
the lineup is really good. We were talking off there. Yeah, the pitching is not. I mean, today there's really no excuse for the offense today. Like on Monday, they stunk because Poulin is kind of like their Tim Herrin, as you said, Jeff, and then Zach Littell's been one of the worst pitchers.
He's been one of the worst pitchers in baseball. There's no way around it. He's one of the worst pitchers in baseball.
But the Nationals this year are 7th in the league in homers. They are, I believe, 4th in the league in slugging percentage. They're 5th in the league in WRC plus, which is weighted runs created plus. We had another comment on Monday's show. Weighted runs created plus is. We
have an episode. Go look it up. Go dig into our archive. Do us a favor and listen to another one.
100's league average. It boils all the offense down to one number. 100's league average. So you want to be at least 100 or above. If you're below, it's percentage points, all that stuff. Anyway, the Nationals offense is very good. Mead breakout is real. Wood is good. Jacob Young can hit a little bit. I like CJ Abrams a ton, at least offensively. They're a good team. Cade Cavalli, probably their best starter, is going on Tuesday. He's, he throws hard. He misses some bats. He limits his walks for the most part. He does get hit hard when contact is given up, but it's not terrible. So he's kind of like in the middle pitching wise. Like he's good, but he's not great. He's also not terrible. So he's a very solid starter who's a big prospect who just hasn't ever hit the ceiling, but it's good.
Health has held him back.
Health too. And then you got Joey Cantillo. So hopefully Joey Cantillo can give this offense a chance to turn it around and be in the game after the first inning is what you hope. Yeah. The nice thing about Allen's performance is the bullpen is in good shape. You have all your relievers that are out there right now. Everybody's good to go on Tuesday, so that's a good thing.
And then I want to address one more thing because it's coming up constantly in the comments. My theory on Gabriel Arias, I'm just going to throw this out there because people are saying, what's going to happen when he's going to come back? Well, he's not even on the field yet, so we don't have to worry about that. Yeah. He's getting close to you might be able just a 60-day DL him because he's not on the field and he's getting close to that point. But I think when he comes back, to me, it's very obvious. Petey Halpin has struggled offensively. He's not really adding much. I know he had a single either today or yesterday. I can't remember which day, but it's been a struggle for him. And I think he goes down and Daniel Schneemann becomes just an outfielder. Halpin and Schneemann are very similar. Schneemann becomes your full-time outfielder. Gabby becomes your full-time infielder. And it gives you some more depth on the team. So for everyone who keeps asking, I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do. Gabby will play when Jose is DHing. It'll be that type of situation for this team.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back on Wednesday in your feeds. Hopefully we're talking about a much better Guardians Nationals game Game 2. We'll talk about that game. We'll talk about Game 3, the finale of the series. We'll at some point get into our prospect rankings update. We want to talk about All-Star representatives. We want to talk about Futures Game representatives. And Jeff, the College World Series is starting up. We need to tell Guardians fans who to watch for in the College World Series, what teams, what regions. We'll have a bunch of that this week as well.
Thank you all for joining us as always, and go Guardians, go.